Hi, this is Jeff Marsace, the Plain English Attorney, and today I'm going to talk about a rather touchy subject. This is when parents leave an inheritance to their kids and then something happens in the kid's marriage. Unfortunately, we see it too often. There's a 50% divorce rate out there. If you've got 3 children, there's a really good statistical chance that one of them's going to end up getting divorced. Look, things do change. Attitudes change. A couple moves to another city, another state, another part of the country, and then suddenly the marriage falls apart because one of them is starting an affair. And then what happens with the assets? Well, they get divided up. Now, there is some security in the law when someone inherits something that it's typically off the table. Now, let's be realistic here. That's if it's kept separate and apart from all the other assets. But unfortunately, I see too often the situation where, okay, the parents have passed on, the child gets the money, their spouse starts whispering in their ear, oh, look, honey, we've got this money. We can get that dream house we've always wanted. Okay, they go, they find the dream house, they buy it, and the real estate attorney goes, oh, well, you're husband and wife. All right, well, we're going to make this as joint tenants with a right of survivorship. For married couples, it's called tenancy by the entirety. So, okay. And, oh, well, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And then a couple of years later, they've moved into the house, and that spouse takes up with the personal trainer. They want a divorce. I want half the house. And the kids are going, but I paid for that whole house with the money that I got from my parents' estate. They left it to me. That's mine. My divorce attorney said that you, quote, commingled it, so I get half the house. And the fact is, they're right. And in a lot of estate planning, this is usually the way it goes. I probably unfairly call it one-step planning because the only contingency that tends to be drafted into estate documents is, what if your child dies before they get all their money? Where does the money go? All right, if the child has money in their in that revocable trust from the parents, it hasn't all gone out to them, the child dies, oh, well then the parents have directed it goes to the grandchildren. But there's nothing in that trust that can control, oh, the money went in, it got into the child's pocket, done. And then something happens, the child gets divorced or the child dies, they could leave everything to the spouse and not to the kids. All right, there is a way to change that. There is a solution. What we have in the office, we call it the Trust Plus program. When we do a revocable living trust, that really is the keystone. That's a very strong start for planning. And for a lot of my clients, that's exactly what they want. It's gonna take care of making sure assets that are in the trust don't go through probate. As long as everything is properly funded, it's gonna avoid all the downsides of probate. We've got a video on that, and it's also really the main subject of my book, Estate Planning Basics. So if you're interested in that, there are links to get that down in the description below. All right, but what do we do if we really do have this concern that something may happen with one of the kids' marriages? We need to make sure that this inheritance goes down to the grandkids, the next generation, and can't go to my kid's spouse. All right, well, what we can do is add a couple of trusts that just make this happen, and it's mandatory, and there are a lot of benefits to this. I call it again, Trust Plus is the overall plan, but you end up with a beneficiary trust for each child so that they receive the money into these trusts there's a trustee in charge of it, and their goal is to not give the money out directly, but to pay for things. Or in the biggest example that I see that my clients understand, that dream house, the trust can buy and own and secure that dream house. All right, so what happens then if a couple of years after they get the dream house, your kid's spouse decides they want to, again, take up with the personal trainer, go off, I want half the house. Your kid gets to say, you're not getting half the house. I don't even own half the house. The trust owns the house. You're getting nothing from that. That's exactly what it's designed to do. All right, so the trust is set up. It's for the benefit of the child. It can be used to pay for things like school for the grandkids and whatnot. Oh, they want to get that dream house, or, oh, we want to take this vacation. All right, the trustee can pay for the trips, but it's not designed to say, oh, here's half the money. Go ahead and dump it into the joint bank account with your spouse. It's designed to protect that money. So each child ends up getting one of these beneficiary trusts. Now, there's also the instance of tax-deferred money, and that's when we set up an IRA trust for each child as well, and it's essentially the same thing. Now, what protection do these trusts have? Well, the big one that we're concerned about today, what if there's a divorce? It can keep that money separate so that it doesn't end up being on the table during the divorce. The other thing is that money is also immune from creditors and from lawsuits. So that's secured as well. And we never like to think about this. What if one of the kids ends up getting into some bad car accident and they end up on disability, and Medicaid is their health insurance, and now just getting an outright inheritance would end up having all those assets get depleted so that they can get back on those programs again? Well, it's immune to that because that money is locked up and it's in the discretion of the trustee to get whatever the beneficiary needs at that time. So it's secure against all of those things. Now, what's important about this in terms of being the trustee? Your child cannot, should never be the trustee over their own beneficiary trust and IRA trust. That's an easy way for a court to just say, well, you're the beneficiary and you're the trustee. Well, we're going to make you take this money out. No. They can't be the trustee. Well, who is the trustee? Well, if you've got 3 kids, maybe you've got a sibling who's the first trustee, you've got a nephew who's the second trustee, and then who are the successive trustees after that? Well, if you've got child A, B, and C, for child A's trust, it's B and C. B then C. For child B, it's child C and child A. And what about child C? It's child B and child A. So that the siblings can look out for each other in these crises and not be legally obligated to have to give them money that can be lost in these lawsuits. And now there's a little bit of balance that they're the trustees for each other's trusts. And now your family can really look out for each other for the next generation. Oh, what if that child passes on? That has to now go to their descendants. It can't go to the spouse. Well, who's managing the money? It's the people that you've listed as your trustees. So again, sibling, nephew, or if it's got down to it, it's one of your other kids is taking care of their nieces and nephews. So this is how the trustee part of that whole setup works. All right, so some of the big questions that I typically get. Well, really, can't my child run their own trust? No, that's a deal breaker. This is something where you're going to have to trust your kids collectively to be able to look out for each other. Or if you don't want them on that trustee list at all, then we have other people that can be the trustees. And there are trust companies that can handle it if we really need to put that in. And I usually recommend doing that as a kind of a backstop. Maybe they're fifth or sixth down the line in terms of trustees, but they're at the end of that list. Oh, well, what if I have a revocable living trust already? Well, okay, if it's one of the trusts that we put together or it's part of the network of attorneys and advisors that I'm really familiar with, okay, we just need to update that trust so it doesn't give it to the kids directly. It goes to those beneficiary and IRA trusts, and we need to set up those IRA trusts. So it's not like we necessarily have to throw out your revocable living trust to start over. But this is really something, if you're thinking about this type of planning, oh, I have a will and I want to set up these other trusts, we really should look at the revocable living trust. All right, now, won't my kids be upset? This is a big one, and possibly. But the good news is I'm going to be putting together a video pretty soon that talks about all of those other protective features for this Trust Plus plan, so that you can give the link to this video to your kids and say, look, this is what we're doing. The world could just be going crazy and off the deep end, and everybody's going to be suing everybody else. And we just want to make sure that what we've put together and built our whole lives ends up actually benefiting you and not someone who sued you. Not to deplete it if the government would have been paying for disability and Medicaid and other benefits anyway. This is our way to protect this. So if there is anything that's left over, it has to go to your kids and not someone else. That's an easy enough explanation. And I always tell my clients, look, I'm happy to be the bad guy if need be. It's like, no, this is what I'm recommending and you get to go. Well, look, the attorney knows what he's talking about. We're going to follow their lead. All right. Now, I also end up getting questions. What if you don't live in North Carolina? Because my videos are being seen by people all across the country and in some cases other countries. I'm happy to consult with whatever estate planning attorney you have. If it's part of the estate planning source network, then I know that the documents that they would be using are sufficient to have this plan put together the right way, and I'm happy to help coordinate that with those attorneys in those states. All right, so I hope you found that information useful. If this is something that you're interested in, you're one of my clients, or you want to become one of our clients, then please contact the office. Now, as always, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, leave a comment if you've got a question. If it's something that's not too set to your specific situation, it's just a general question, I'm happy to answer it. But then also, please get in touch with us. The phone number at the office is 919-844-7993. And we'll hopefully get to work with you on this stuff if this is something that's going to work for you. Thanks a lot. Stay safe, plan ahead, and enjoy life, and make it a great day.